Hello everyone. Today we'll just do a little tier maker and base the killer perks from most effective to least effective. To note that I haven't used any of these really. I'm a Legion main and I'm trash at killer. But if you have any problems, then comment down below and I'll probably just stick off other people's gameplay and how effective they are in my survivor games. Although I tried to do in alphabetical order, I do not know why, but sometimes the order was a little bit messed up, so apologies for that, but hopefully you can still know which perks are which.
Hello, this is litkitcat's editor here, and I've just realized he's being an absolute idiot, and that he hasn't done all the perks that are in the game at the moment. I would like to formally apologize on his behalf, as all of these perks only go up to the Nemesis Killer.
First off, we have agitation. I'm probably going to put this in maybe C or D tier, maybe, because it's probably going to be a C. Agitation's agitation. It's good to get the extra movement speed when you're carrying someone, and especially when survivors are body blocking and things like that, or especially if you're going to basement to hook, but it's not really game changing. Okay, next we have Nurse Schooling. This is obviously any aura perks are very, very powerful. It's just, yeah, although it's got the radius, it's not overly overpowered, so I wouldn't put it into the S tier, but it's powerful enough to go into the S tier, I think. Okay, Bamboozle. Now I don't really play with Bamboozle that very much. I think it's Bamboozle anyway, I need to check. I'd probably put it in B tier. I know it's very good for shutting down loops and things like that. So I'll probably put it in B tier. Anything which shuts down loops is quite insane. Yeah, it's just a clown perk, I believe. I need to do some extra research. Okay, and then next is barbecue and chili. Now, obviously. Barbecue, it's very simple when you hook someone. Shows all auras unless blocked. For 6 seconds, I believe, is the best. All distance. This is extremely overpowered, so you can just go from one chase straight to the next. And the best part of it, I think, is the BP boost, because you get so many blood points for putting this on, even if you don't get any value out of it. So you just get boosted games, I think. Okay, Beast of Prey. It's trash. I don't know what else to say. Bitter Murmur, I have never played with this perk, but I see a lot of people using it, so I'll probably put it in the C tier, I think. I know it's to do with gens being completed and auras, so it's, yeah, I mean, it's only people on the gen, which can be powerful in some cases, but not always the best until you pop that last gen where it's quite good. Now, Blood Echo. Oh goodness, what a perk. I'm gonna have to put a D tier. It's so useless. The exhaustion is kind of good, because anyone here is injured. It's a basic dead hard counter, so when you hook someone, everyone who's injured is just exhausted immediately. I'm not entirely sure the distance and how long it is, but it's still very powerful, I guess. The downside is hemorrhage, which is just nothing really. It's just so much better perks to be using, if I'm honest. Could use Unrelenting to stop dead hard. Just anything which causes exhaustion, really, from the killer side is just not very good. It's just annoying, really. Alright, Bloodhound. I just hate those perks. Hex Crowd Control. Now, I think this is Hex Crowd Control. Let me give it. Okay, I'm just going to leave that perk for now. I do not know which one it is, because I am not very smart. Okay, Brutal Strength. It's okay. It's probably C or D tier, I think. The good thing is it makes you a lot faster to move around the map, which would make me put it C. But it's just such a really passive thing. I think I have to put it D tier. It's just not very good. It's passive. Passive perks aren't extremely good on killer unless they buy you a lot of time. Really? Alright. Next is Corrupt Intervention, I believe. Is this corrupt? I'm not sure. Corrupt Intervention, I'm going to have to put a B tier. It's very powerful for the start of the game, don't get me wrong. The idea that you can just kind of cut off the objective for maybe like 2 or 3 minutes, I think it is, it's just so overpowered. Well, the problem is though, if it was even better, it would just last the entire game, which is highly overpowered. I don't think it would happen. It will probably go beta mainly because of the cooldown and that it kind of wastes a perk spot after mid-game or so. The next perk is Bloodward, and I had to look up the image. I had no clue what it is. To be honest, I'm just going to put it A. It's just such a clutch perk. If you ever have seen it enforced, what happens is when you hook someone in endgame, it will block the exit gates for a decent amount of time. I remember I got cut out of it one time. It's just probably going to be A tier just because it can turn so easy, like hard one kill games into just 4K slugs very simply, very easily. I don't know what claustrophobia is. Claustrophobia? I don't know if I'm pronouncing that. That will probably be, yeah, probably D tier. It's not. No, the minus to the healing speed is actually pretty good, I would think, but it's just the idea that you have to be in the terror radius, which would kind of suck a lot. Would go very well with nurses though, I could imagine that.
Yeah, it's a kick.
Claustrophobia, probably C or D tier. It probably goes C tier, mainly because it's actually quite powerful when you put it with Bitter Murmur and things like that, where you know people when they've done gens, because it just shuts down all windows after generators, which I find quite overpowered. And again, it'd probably be, I don't know. Yeah, without any other perks, it'd probably be D tier. To be honest, it's not. It's good, but it relies on other horror perks for its main use. Okay, next, Dark Devotion. Now, I really like the idea of this perk. The idea that you can kind of throw your heartbeat onto a survivor and kind of just cause a ton of panic. I'm going to put it on C tier, mainly because it sounds like a really good idea, although I have never really tried and practiced it. I do play against it sometimes, and it does very much confuse me quite a lot of the time. Dead Man's Switch, meta at the moment, it'll probably be S tier, because of pain resonance. However, by itself, I'd maybe say B tier. I do see a lot of value out of it, even when people don't actually use pain res. I still fall for it to this day. I just get off a gem when someone does it, and it's quite overpowered though, because you just can't even use it. Just depends on the team, I guess, being good enough to kind of understand what it does. Dear Stalker, I would probably put it in F tier because I hate all these kind of like ability perks, like these kind of, I don't know exactly. I put like trash, these like the trash ones in my head. I'm gonna probably put it D tier, mainly because actually as a new killer, I struggle with this a bit. If I kind of get it down and then just kind of chase someone because I know they're gonna flashlight save or whatever, a lot of the time I just lose them, and then I've just lost them, and I'm like, oh, where on earth have they gone? And then they get picked up by a survivor, and it's just a loss, honestly. What on earth is this? Devour Hope, that's it. I'm gonna put A tier. It would probably be S tier, but by itself it just doesn't work. I've played several CAD games where it just doesn't work really. It's just kind of there to be used, if that makes sense. But it's just without any other perk combination, it's just quite useless. Someone will cleanse it immediately if they get exposed or whatever. It's really good when you have a lot of pressure on people though. So say for example you don't let it get known the entire game, and then suddenly you got 2 downs and suddenly it pops. Like they can't do anything, they've got to help the team, and it means throwing a bit of their time and things like that. So yeah, I can see it coming in useful a lot of the time, but when you haven't got any perks to support it, is it really S tier? Really? Alright, Discordance. Now, okay, this is a very controversial choice. I'm going to put it S tier. I play Legion a lot. I rely on this perk for information. It's my only information perk, other than barbecue, but barbecue just doesn't seem to work for me. It's so useful for Legion because you just immediately snap like where people are. Early game it's insane because you can just go straight over to that gen because people are on it. There's other perks which people like using, like Ruin Surveillance and things like that, but I prefer Discordance mainly because it kind of highlights to you which gens are more important to be attacking rather than just all gens that have it. Say for example you have Surveillance on, it will tell you where's a 3 people gen, where's 3 people working on it and 1 person working on a singular gen. The Surveillance won't actually tell you who's working on it, so you might actually go to the one person, they get a free gen, whereas if you went to the 3-person gen, which was highlighted by discordance, you would get a lot more value out of it. Dying Light. Alright, I need to look at Dying Light, although I don't know, honestly. I don't know anyone who uses it, and I honestly think it's kind of trash, really. I'm gonna put it in F tier, although 33% is a huge kind of like slowdown. It's just kind of destroyed by this one person getting speed to everything, really. They also get invulnerability from the killer if you want to build tokens. It's just another way of playing that I feel isn't going to be helpful. I see a lot of people just throw it on as an extra perk, and then they kind of just get a little bit of value out of it. However, I think it's just a bit counterintuitive at times. Endurance, I'm going to have to put maybe ARS, honestly. S tier, maybe because just by itself, not compared with other perks, it would definitely be S tier. And maybe A tier because it just doesn't do as much as Barbecue and Discordance. I'm going to put it in S tier for now. Enduring is insane. I get destroyed by it several times. I do a pallet tech, and I just go straight through the killer. Any killers with Enduring will just pick you off the pallet immediately. I have done this so many times. I cannot believe how many times I've fallen for that. It's very overpowered because it just saves you so much time. You don't understand how many times you get hit by pallets when you're a bit like lower down, I guess. Fire Up, now I've seen a few, I've never used this. It sounds like a really good strategy along with other perks such as Noed and things like that, which support endgame. I'm probably going to put it beta because although I haven't played with it, I've seen quite a few people use it, and I know a lot of people who say it's good. I've seen a lot of gameplay with it as well, and I just feel like it's it's a very good perk, honestly. It's a very good passive, useful by itself, can be paired with others perk. That's what I kind of like with these, like Enduring and Fire Up and things like that. You can kind of put together with other perks, but they are still good by themselves. Franklin's, I absolutely hate Franklin's, but I am going to have to put it in A. It is very overpowered by itself. If you're running a single killer game, you can absolutely shred if you just make everyone drop their flashlights and use them all up. It is very dumb, and I think it should be nerfed. Yeah. Okay, for Gearhead, I don't know. I like the idea of it. I like the idea that you can kind of play around, I guess. It's an interesting idea. I like the idea of it, but in retrospect, it doesn't actually really do very much. If you hit someone, the last thing you'll really want to do, especially as Deathslinger, someone who hard focuses and chases, the last thing you'd want to do is hit someone and go for someone on a gen, really, wouldn't you? It doesn't seem right, really. I guess in some kind of instances, it could be useful, but I'm probably gonna put it in C tier, mainly because it's just kind of like a useful thing, I guess, but not entirely game changing. Hangman's Trick. I have never seen anyone use this. I like the idea of it, but it's probably gonna have to go D tier. It's not trash though whatsoever. It's very powerful. You can see people when they're sabotaging hooks. I like the idea of it. It's definitely like a unique perk which hasn't been used several times. Beast Spray, but yeah, it's just not really good in actual games. But I like the idea of it though. I like the idea of it. Rancor, probably beta. It's good by itself because you can literally just boop and kill someone just for free. Doesn't matter how many hooks they're on or whatever. You can just kill whenever you want, however you want. It is very overpowered, and I think it should be nerfed. However, it's not as overpowered as things like Franklin's and things like that. Hex Haunted Ground. I use this a lot in customs. I find it a lot of fun, so I'd probably put it A tier. But yeah, people just know if you're playing Spirit, or just anyone really, if there's multiple totems or hexes around that you just don't cleanse. I'd probably put it C tier, to be honest. Hex Retribution. Now, I believe this is the one which lets you see auras and things like that. I'm probably going to put it in the C tier. I think it's no good. It's really no good. I mean, it's good for like aura builds, and you can like actually see people. close to totems, but there's really no point for me, to be honest. Hunter's Lullaby, F tier, annoying perk, doesn't do very much, can be cleansed and just gone rid of out the game. It makes no real sense to me, really, why you'd have Hunter's Lullaby, unless you're playing a bunch of like Baby Dwights and Baby Claudites, really. I'm Weird. Now, I see this being played a lot. I'm probably going to put this S tier. I have never played with it before, but I see so many combos with not other perks, but with killer powers such as Pyramid Head, people who can hit through walls and things like that. It is so overpowered. It doesn't really feel. It's not overpowered. However, it's very very good. I don't think it should be nerfed. However, if you're playing against someone with killer with this, you cannot do very much against it. It involves some counterplay, of course, but it's kind of the end of your day. Good day, really. Infectious Fright. I hate the idea of this perk. I know a few people who don't like it. But although that it is quite good when you down someone and everyone would just kind of be like, oh look, here I am. So any cheeky little urban evasion flashlight Nia who's just sitting behind a log will kind of have to run away or fear your wrath, I guess. Insidious F tier. Hate this perk. Useless unless you're camping, which you don't want to do in this game because it's toxic and you don't get any experience out of it. Simple. Iron Grasp, I'm probably going to have to put C tier. Again, it's a very good passive perk, which will stop you from losing a lot of like knockdowns, really. You won't lose them as easily with things such as Boil Over and things like that. Iron Maiden. Now, I have the use of this perk. I've played it a few times, but it's just never good unless you're playing a locker build. It is a huge counter to locker builds. But if you're playing someone who isn't a locker build, honestly, when I don't have a locker build, I only get in a locker maybe once if I know barbecue's in use, things like that. So maybe just probably like C or B tier. I think B tier probably because with combination of barbecue and the person knows, and it's a huge counter. I probably put it B, but there are some kind of issues with it, which sometimes you just won't get any use out of, which you do not want for a perk. Knockout. I've been ruined a few times by this perk. I'm probably going to put it C tier. That is probably going to be very controversial for a few people. I like the idea of this perk that you can't see the down person's aura and they're just disorientated, because a lot of the time the down person gives you a lot of information if you're in a Swift with other people. So I like this perk because it kind of causes a lot of mayhem, and it kind of relies on not teamwork necessarily, but it relies on not teamwork really, but it kind of goes off of what people's instincts are to help and things like that. I have a lot of friends who just kind of, oh, he has knockout, I'm going to leave because I cannot see your aura and I cannot help. It's very exposing. Lightborn, I think this is Lightborn. Very good for very helpful for new killers who just get bullied often, but when you get a lot better at the game, it is so useless. I'm probably going to put it in D tier because I do not get flashlighted anymore, like when I'm just walking around, so I find it very useless, and I'm getting better as well by picking people up just facing walls. Walls are just the better Lightborn. They don't even take up a perk slot, honestly. Mad Grit. Okay, it's going to be so controversial. I love Mad Grit. It is so much fun. It is very powerful as well, and it's just not even that bad. A lot of people complain about it, really. However, I don't really see a problem with it. It's very fun. It's not overpowered either, though. You kind of just hit people constantly, and it's kind of like a fun thing. Because what I do now is I kind of used to just send it across the map using it. It was quite funny. But the better kind of option to do with it is to kind of hide it so that people don't know about it. Because then people are just like, oh, let's go for a 3-person save. Nope, you're not getting a 3-person save. I'm just gonna hold them forever, basically. It can be very overpowered when people haven't got comms. And they can't really do very much about it at all. Okay, Furtive Chase, just had to look it up because I actually haven't played it, I don't think. I don't see it often. I like the idea of it, but like Dying Light, it's just kind of a way to play. I think it's better than Dying Light, the idea of it is fun. It also helps you definitely become a lot more of a stealth killer. When you hook the sniper, more times it decreases your terror radius. I'm probably going to have to put it D tier. Again, it was an attempt at a new kind of game strategy, and I kind of could see it working, but yeah, it's just not going to work, to be honest. Make your choice. I really like the idea of this, that it kind of helps you not to place tunneling. I like the idea of that, because a lot of the time I feel like I'm forced to. Although it's probably not S tier really. I have quite a few people who hate this perk really, but I'm probably going to have to put it maybe B tier, honestly. It's a solid perk, I don't see why the problem is, because you literally just one hit down either of them now, and you're probably not going to go for the longest you might borrow it. So it's a very simple choice really. Fearmonger, I hate this perk, it does nothing, it doesn't even slow gem work, it's going F tier. It's so useless, it's just annoying for survivors. I don't know why demos perks I just really hate a lot, other than Jolt. I love Jolt. Jolt is pretty good. Fearmonger I just have horrible connotations with. It makes games very boring, very dull, and I just want to leave, honestly. Monitor and Abuse, I like the idea of it. It's, I don't really know really. It's very good, I like any FOV perks. I'm probably going to have to put a B tier. I'm not entirely sure about it in actual games, but in customs it does feel like very fun. Monster Shrine, I think it's not F tier because they did do something well here, but it's probably D tier just because it probably never actually gets used in some games unless you buy Iron Grasp and other perks, which we're not going to be doing with perks. It's good for transporting and then putting in basement, and then you've also just got full control over them. Like, no one really can do anything, and you can literally just see people in basement as well. It's so very, it's powerful, but the lack of use is just not good. I like the idea of this. I don't really see it being used in actual games, so it's probably gonna have to go C tier. I like the Oblivious idea though, that you can see where they're going and stuff, but they don't know where you are. I like the idea of that. I like the idea of that. Noah, I really want to put it in F tier because it's a good perk, but it's so toxic. I hate using it. I have only used it like twice or something, and I absolutely hate it. I feel so sorry for them. But I also want to put it. It's just no fun, but it's also S tier. I'm probably gonna have to put it A though, just because it's so powerful. Even by itself, you can just go from no kills, no hooks, just to a 4-kill game immediately, just like that. It's quite a perk. I would say it is quite a perk. Overwhelming Presence, I hate this perk. It does a decent amount though, so I'm probably gonna have to put a D tier. Any perks with items involved can probably go down a tier, just because items aren't always used and they're not the main point of the game. However, items can be pretty powerful at times in this game. So, yeah, perks like Overwhelming Presence, Franklin's are very helpful for just kind of eliminating problems in your game. Play with your food, F tier. Again, it's just like Dying Light. It's a new way of changing your game, as you would say. Maya's kind of brought in these two perks mainly because of the obsession being a new mechanic being added, and I very much dislike both of them. They're no good at all. Pop, immediately S tier. Don't use it, although I know it's extremely good. 25% reduction on the gen is crazy, even if you have to get a hook in the first place. It's huge for gen slowdown, absolutely huge, and it's only by itself as well. You don't need any other perks for it. You can make other perks such as Pain Res, Deadman Switch, meta at the moment, but it's still very powerful by itself, which is why I think it should go S tier. Just as a heads up, where is it? This is not Jolt. I am very stupid. This is Overcharge, and it gives a hard skill check, which I hardly think is hard, so I'm probably gonna have to put it. Predator, I would say, is a decent perk. I like the idea you can see more scratch marks. It's very helpful for new killers, and it can also be pretty helpful for people such as like people playing different killers who focus on scratch marks more than noise and things like that. Can think of people like Spirit. No, Spirit doesn't use it. Wraith, for example. Wraith does very much focus on scratch marks, which is why it's his perk. Remember me. Overall, I'm just going to have to put it D tier. A lot of Freddy's perks aren't that good, I would say personally. Although stopping the closing gates is very powerful. Like 100%, no way out and things like that. It's not, I wouldn't say it's any good really by itself. You just kind of have to deal with it, and 4 seconds. Even if you like get like 2 hooks and everyone nons, the obsession is a waste of a perk therefore. And the obsession doesn't even get this cooldown as well, which I think is very problematic for this perk. Ruin, I would put it S tier if it had other things, because I played Ruin and it got always cleansed immediately. So I'm probably going to put it A tier along with perks such as Devour Hope, which will be huge with other perks. But by itself, it works. It does in some instances. It really does work. However, these instances, you sometimes get a lot of sweaty, try-hard survivors who cleanse immediately, and you immediately just lose that perk, which I think sucks. This one's the best for last. That is dying. Okay, well, save the best for last. Again, I absolutely hate all of Maya's perks. I think they're absolutely useless. None of them work at all. I don't even have to explain for that one. I think that one's even worse than these other ones, to be honest. Now, this one I think is Shadowborn. I probably need to check, but I'm going to assume this is Shadowborn. Shadowborn I absolutely love. S tier, no complaints whatsoever. It's definitely going S tier. Disagree with me in the comments if you do think so, but this is probably one of my most favourite perks in the game, because FOV is huge for killers. You have very minimalised kind of viewing compared to survivors, which makes it very difficult to find them and also track them. I think Lightborn definitely gives you Shadowborn, sorry, gives you a very, very higher chance of finding them and also tracking them as well through 360s and things like that. It's a lot more fun to play the game with itself. Now, Sloppy recently got a rework, and I do very much like the rework. I literally just figured out what it was yesterday, actually. But I think it was maybe like DLC, I think. And I think it's probably 18 now. Especially with killers such as Legion, who require you to stay injured, and Sloppy definitely does do this. It's very powerful. It could be S tier, honestly, because I'm a Legion main. However, for killers who don't really want to keep everyone injured, such as Ghostface, who just exposes, and Myers, who also exposes, it's not a very good perk. So I think A tier, because it's S tier for some killers, but then maybe B or C for others. Spies from the Shadows, I'm not entirely sure what the point of this perk is, to be honest. There's so much better ones to be using, and it's just going to trigger randomly, and you probably won't need it half the time. I guess assume it's helpful sometimes. I'm probably going to put it C tier, although it's it's a very good perk, but I just never use it. I have access to it, I just never use it. It seems a bit like, the idea of it is good, but the actual situations you'll use this in are probably quite lacking, I think. It just probably won't happen very much. I think this is Spirit Fury. I think Spirit Fury is quite actually fun, really. I think it'd be A or B tier. I like the idea that you can immediately just kill a pallet and you're like, oh, hello there, and just slap him down. It sounds like a very, very fun idea. And yeah, it might have to be C tier. I'm not entirely sure. It's probably between B and C tier, but I'm gonna put it B tier because I like it. Whispers, I see this being used a lot, but I don't like it at all. It doesn't really help me that much. It kind of sends shivers down my spines, really. I'm gonna have to put it D tier, compromise between C and F tier. It's not insane, to be honest. Jolt, now I'm gonna put this B tier. I explained a while ago why this was the case, so go back to watch that if you need to. Surveillance, I like the idea of this perk, however, by itself, I think it should probably go C tier. I like how you can see if a Gujen is regressing or not. However, the point of it is to get information, and without pairing with other perks, this perk does not give you very much information, to be honest. It's basically just a really bad Monster Shrine, honestly. I'm going to put it F tier, because it's just not useful, honestly. It doesn't, no one goes basement. If you're good, no one goes basement. If you're good, no one will go basement. Unless they really have to for a chest or something like that. I would not see a single killer running this, and I'll only stick with bad one, and they won't get any value out of it unless Survivalist will probably, or Alex, will probably just go to basement and try to get a med kit, as he usually does. Thanatophobia, I'm going to put beta. I love the idea of it, that it works, and it does work. I like it. This perk is the only one I think which DBD put in the game to do something, and it actually did it to the amount of effectiveness that they wanted it to. It might be put through tons of reworks, but for the past 6 months since I've been playing the game and been watching it as well, it has acted basically the same the entire time. And I like that. It's a balanced perk. It's actually useful sometimes as well. It can buy you a lot of time. Yeah, it could be a bit better, I think, honestly. If you... It's good at the moment, but I think if you buffed it a bit, I think it would go A or S fairly enough, though. Third seal. It's good. It's so annoying, though. I'm going to put it C tier. By itself, it can just be cleansed, so... Yeah, I'm probably going to have to keep it C tier. By itself, it can be cleansed, which makes it quite bad. However, I think if you get enough pressure on people, they're all blind, and you get hooks and things like that, it's so hard to find them. My goodness, you can literally just let people go from first hook to third hook, or just to dead, basically. It's very, 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 very good in some circumstances. However, by itself and in other circumstances, it isn't so good, I think. Thrilling Tremors, I'm going to have to put maybe A tier or B tier, I think. It's very powerful. You can shut off gens when you pick someone up, because they can just kick people off and kind of frighten them a bit, and it also forces them to come out as well. They can't really sit there by the gen the entire time. I'm going to have to put it B tier, I think, because A tier is just another level than B tier, but it is still very useful, I think. It's definitely useful. Thrill of the Hunt, F tier. Worst perk in the game, worst hex in the game, I shall say. Even 100 Lullaby is better than that, and that is saying something, honestly. Thrill of the Hunt is just useless, and it's a BP boosting one. Tinkerer, I'm gonna have to say A tier. I would usually put it S tier. However, depending on the character, you can't get there in time. It will get noticed. This is the one perk where I see when I'm playing Survivor that I noticed first. If they have it, it's so noticeable, and then after you've noticed it, you can kind of play around it as well, which I think is quite dumb. It could be better, but it is S tier if you combine it with other perks. Don't get me wrong, it is very powerful, but it's just not amazing by itself, really. I hate this one. Unknowing Presence, it's absolutely horrible. F tier, garbage, get it out. I dislike anything which has to do with hard skill checks, because in this day and age, everyone hits skill checks, really, unless you're playing very, very, very bad survivors. It can be good if you put people in pressure. Like, don't get me wrong, like a hard skill check, if you're really under pressure, you're very likely to miss. I've done that several times before. However, it's a thing. It is definitely a thing. Unrelenting, immediately S tier, very, very powerful. I don't know about S tier, maybe A tier, It is very powerful. I don't really see it S tier because it's not so powerful, and it's not incredibly fun either, but it kind of gives you a new insight to the game, which could actually be changed, really, if behavior really wanted to. It's a very interesting idea that you can just kind of swing your thing a lot faster than normal. Realization, I do realize this is Strider, and I do agree with my decision that it's D tier. I'm going to put Wizardism D tier just now, so you have my reasoning for that. Strider, I disagree. It's good for Spirit because it's her perk, obviously. However, it's useless on other killers, really. You just use better perks such as I have All Ears or whatever, I can't remember. Such as this one. And kind of, yeah, it's just not very good, to be honest. You're better off using other perks. Zanzian Tactics. I like the idea of this. It's like a reverse kind of Windows opportunity for Kate. I like the idea of it. It's probably gonna have to go B tier. I do very much like the idea of it. I've never used it myself. But I like the idea of it. It's kind of cool. You can see all palettes and stuff, and it makes you a lot able to shut down loops with killers such as Clown and Trapper and things like that. It lets you know which loop they're going to. Distressing. It's interesting. It's interesting, definitely. I'm probably gonna have to put it maybe D tier. I like the idea of it. I like the idea that you can kind of catch people out with it. but I don't think it's good enough to kind of put higher up, I believe. Deathbound, I like the idea of, but it reminds me of a mixture between other perks, really. It's kind of, I'd say it's D tier. I like the idea that you can kind of catch people out again, but it kind of just feels like a rebrand of, or rework of another 2 perks put together. Force Penance, although a lot of people will probably put a D or F tier, I like the idea of it that you can't heal afterwards. It really is punishing. So I'd probably put it C tier, I think, rather than B tier. It's not that good. But I like the idea of Broken being used more as a killer thing, because although it is very powerful and you can't heal, and that's just a huge part of the game, to heal and take another hit for people, it is so huge for kind of stopping survivors in their tracks and making sure that they do not ruin you to pieces, which I get happening a lot. Okay, Trail of Torment. This perk, I like the idea of again, but it doesn't really work, really. It's just kind of, I mistake this a lot of the time for Tinkerer, which is just way, way, way better than it, really. I'm probably going to have to put it D tier, probably just because it's Trail of Torment. It's good, and it can be used sometimes, I guess, to some extent, but it's just, yeah, it's just not insanely that good. Kicking a generator, you do. Often, it will probably get identified. So, it'll be good for stealth killers, don't get me wrong, but Pyramid Head is his perk, and he's literally sliding his sword around everywhere, so you can hear him from miles around, which I don't see the point in, really. I hate Coup de Grace. It is not good. Do not listen to what anyone says about it. It is not good. It is definitely F tier. It's so useless. Getting a longer range attack, it doesn't really make any sense. And you're consuming the token as well. So although you can go huge for one of them, you can't do anything other than that. It's a bit pointless, really. I don't see why it's in the game, to be honest. Okay, next up we have Lethal Pursuer. Now, Lethal Pursuer, I think I'm gonna have to put it in the either C or B tier, because although it's a very good perk for the start of the game, it does get no value out of it later on in the mid and late game. So I'm probably gonna have to put it B tier, I think, just because although it is quite a good perk, I would probably put it S tier if it did have a huger effect. However, it's just not as powerful as some perks, which would last throughout the entire game. Dragon's Grip, I'm probably gonna have to put this D tier, although it's a very good idea and kind of idea and kind of way of playing, I think, which could work out if it got changed in some kind of way, indirect way. It just never actually gets very much value. I never have actually been Dragon's Grip, I don't think, before, as a survivor playing, and I don't think I've seen very many killers get much value out of it either. So I'm probably going to put it D tier. Undying, simply A tier. It would be S tier if it was with other perks, but I think it's just such a powerful hex perk, because even without doing it with another hex perk, it's very powerful. You can see auras, and with a blessing and boon meta at the moment, it's very powerful. You can see people around the totems. I think that is very powerful. Eruption, I'm gonna have to put that in C tier, although it's just mainly because it's not incredibly powerful. It could be seen. It's a very good gen slowdown, I think, honestly. However, the idea that it doesn't really do necessarily very much to indirectly do it. You have to kind of do things yourself, which I think could just be replaced by things such as Ruin and things like that, which kind of have an automatic effect on gen progress. Crowd Control, I'm also gonna have to put C tier, although it's very powerful that you can close a window just immediately. I think it's just a problem because it's a hex. It would be a lot more powerful if it was a single perk such as Bamboozle. It would be a lot higher. However, it's a hex, so it can be cleansed, and then also it can kind of force W keying sometimes. I've heard quite a lot. I have never used this perk myself, but if you hop a window, say for example, and the killer knows it's going to block, and you know it's going to block, you're just going to go straight to the next loop, which I don't find very fun in a game, although it can be quite good in certain times when you want to close off a loop, for example, Killer Shack. Hoarder, I think, is a straight D tier or F tier. It is a very horrible perk. I'm probably going to have to put it F tier. It makes no sense. It's just getting auras and information off of people picking up items and chests, which necessarily doesn't really mean that survivors will do that in the trial. They may just keep it. With other perks such as like Franklin's, where they pick up their items again, I can see it being very useful because you get information when someone picks up their item again, so you know where they are. However, just by itself, playing on a random killer when you don't even know if the survivor's actually going to open chests, drop their items, and things like that, there is really no use for it, and it's just quite a useless one of 4 perks, I think. Hysteria, although not many people find it very useful, I'm probably going to put B tier. I really do like the idea of this perk, and I do see it being used a lot. And I think the Oblivion status effect is really, really, really underrated. I think, honestly, it's not as powerful as Exposed. However, being oblivious is very, very hard to do things as a survivor because you simply cannot hear the killer, and you cannot even see the red stain. So I think Hysteria, the idea behind injuring survivors and everyone getting oblivious, sounds like a very powerful kind of thing to be using in the trial. And Blood Favor, finally, I'm probably going to put maybe B tier as well. I will probably put it A tier or something like that if it wasn't a Hex, but again, just Hexes by themselves playing in a single game means that you're probably not going to get very much value out of it because survivors will simply just cleanse it. I do like the idea though that you can stop pallets from moving if you injure someone. That is a very powerful thing, and I think this is the only perk which can actually disable pallets. I know Spirit Fury can destroy pallets, but Blood Favor seems very powerful in the way that you can completely shut off loops without having to really do anything except injure someone. Okay, that will be it. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.